purchase the psychiatrist's Beyonder characteristic for Susie. Hence...
What? Where am I? Oh, I'm 594. Hey, hello, good morning, everyone. Well, it's still morning, so good morning. I'm back. Hopefully we'll get a few chapters in today. So today is August 19. I heard the pre-downloads for the game is out already, and people are customizing their avatars. Unfortunately, I won't be able to get my hands on it since it actually you need like a phone number from China to even make an account. So it's kind of sad, but we'll have to wait. Unfortunately. Okay. 594. 594. Oops.
192. 3 advancements in a week. Chapter 5.
Okay, we're ready. And I also have my breakfast here, so if you hear me munching, I'm so sorry about that. But I'm trying to multitask as much as I can.
194. The World's Commission. Thankfully, the world didn't have the ability to blush red. As long as he wasn't controlled, there was no change to his state. He chuckled darkly. Another few more days. Audrey nodded with a reserved attitude and didn't rush him. This was because Susie didn't express any desire in advancing anytime soon. After all, she was only a dog. The Hanged Man, the Moon, and the Sun had just advanced a few days ago, so they were in the stage of converging their spirituality and practicing their new Beyonder powers. They had no desire to purchase the subsequent potion formulas or corresponding sanguine inheritance. They calmly waited until the transaction phase came to an end. Besides, they didn't have spare cash. Although Alger had lowered the price Emlyn White had to pay for the Sanguine Baron inheritance to £4,300 and £300 in commission, allowing him to earn £1,400, he had spent quite a bit on the Whip of Mind. All he had left was £1,445. After purchasing the Sanguine Baron inheritance, new dolls and doll dresses, he still had £2,300 in savings. Although it seemed like a sizable amount, the subsequent ingredients were that of a sanguine viscount. It would cost at least £8,000. As for Derek, he had exchanged all his merit points that he had previously accumulated, and he was waiting to be sent out for a patrolling or exploration mission.
Okay,
Force
keep
and
moving
Audrey
forward.
were similarly not seeking to purchase the potion formulas of the subsequent sequences, since they could obtain them from their own resource channels. Furthermore, there was no need to hide it or waste money at the Tarot Club. Audrey simply wasn't too nitpicky when it came to money. It didn't mean she was dumb. On the other hand, Cattleya was still observing and wasn't in a rush to reveal what she needed. On the other hand, she didn't believe that the other Tarot Club members, apart from Mr. Fool, could provide us anything she needed. After all, to a pirate admiral who had advanced to Sequence 5 for years, what she desired most was the level of demigod. Therefore, she only looked calmly at the sun and the others, with her slightly dark purple eyes, and without making any attempts at speaking. Klein thought for a moment and controlled the world to add, "Is anyone able to obtain a mystical item with very potent offensive strength?" The target of his question was directed at the hermit. This was because only Admiral of Stars, who had traveled the seas for so many years, could satisfy his request. Even the Hanged Man and that artisan he knew couldn't do it unless he could provide them with a corresponding Sequence 6 or even a Sequence 5 Beyonder characteristic. Cattleya fell silent for 2 seconds before slowly shaking her If something similar appears at the Beyonder gatherings I participate in, I'll help you take note. All these years, she had killed several Beyonders and had indeed obtained a certain number of Beyonder characteristics and mystical items. But they were either rewarded to her pirate subordinates, or she had exchanged them for two powerful items that greatly enhanced her strength and survivability.
Okay.
She didn't have anything to spare. Furthermore, she needed the two items and wouldn't sell them before she advanced to the level of demigod. From the looks of it, Admiral of Stars isn't a well-to-do person either. A huge faction implies large expenses. Klein silently sighed and made the world thank her with his hoarse voice. With the transactions quickly coming to an end, he controlled the world to look at Force. I wish to entrust you with a mission. Me? Force was a little surprised. Could it be something like buying a radio transceiver again? She thought as the corners of her mouth twitched slightly. The world nodded. Go to William Street, which borders Westboro and Empressboro, and circle the place. Do it once every 2 to 3 days. Take note of any abnormalities. If there are any, then inform me immediately. He didn't use Mr. Fool to bring focus on the matter, as everyone was already used to it and experienced. Furthermore, beneath William Street was precisely the location of the Tudor family's ruins, where the evil spirit was lingering. Abnormality. What would be considered abnormal? Force asked, feeling puzzled and cautious. There might be something abnormal about William Street in Backland. Audrey was originally not very interested in the topic, but at that moment she pricked up her ears and paid close attention. She trusted Mr. World's ability to gather intelligence to a great extent. The great smog of Backland was evidence of his ability. Westboro, Empressboro, sounds like it's located at Lowen's capital, Backland. Miss Magician is presently in Backland? Indeed. She looks ordinary, but she isn't in any way. To a secret organization, members in a city are often more powerful in other places. Of course, she might also be like me, a coincidence of fate because she requested to be roped in. Cattleya swept a glance at Force and quickly analyzed the information revealed from the conversation. Alger was suddenly interested since he knew that the world was the representative of Mr. Fool's Blessed. Whatever he paid attention to had a high chance of involving a conflict at the upper echelons. Just what secret lies within that street named William Street? Alger couldn't help but try to guess at the deeper truth. How would I know what abnormalities there will be? Klein mumbled before getting the world to answer gloomily. I believe there will be sufficient abnormalities. I have to warn you that if you really notice anything abnormal, do not attempt to investigate it on your own or hire someone to do the investigation. It will be very dangerous. How much do you think is an adequate reward?
Poor Force.
Very dangerous. Force instinctively wished to decline the mission. However, considering how immense
She's
the
a couch
influence of
potato.
the great smog of Backland was, one that even affected her, she wasn't sure if this abnormality wouldn't cause her harm. As such, she became hesitant. After a few seconds, she changed her languid seating posture and said, 100 pounds. Much lower than I imagined, the world chuckled. Force spread her hands and said, it's because it's for myself as well. I'll just treat it as people observation in order to gather material for my novel.
Exercise.
That's right, I can't stay at home all day. It's time for me to get out. I have to push forward the matter of acting as a trick master. Just conjuring tricks to amuse Shio isn't enough to digest it. How should I act? Join a circus to perform tricks? Or should I do individual performances at different squares? I don't have to be worried about how the people I know view me. As an author, life experience is a basic trait. Force's thoughts gradually dispersed. After settling this matter, Klein made the world turn his head to the Hanged Man and chuckled darkly. Or, I received intel that the Church of Storms has taken action. The matter at Banzi Harbor has been preliminarily resolved. Having been drifting out at sea for the past week, Alger, who hadn't had any contact with the church, immediately replied with a solemn voice, "What's the final outcome?" "There won't be a Banzi Harbor for some time," the world replied with a concealed smile. At this moment, Audrey and company realized what they were talking about. That was the place with the ancient name Binzi, and it had the present name of Banzi. It was the place where descendants of the King of Angels, Medici, resided. Is Mr. World implying that the Church of Storms has leveled Banzi Harbor? That's really in their style. That's good too. There's no need to worry that the innocent there will be corrupted. I wonder if the King of Angels, Medici, appeared or escaped. Would the Pontiff of the Church of Storms appear in person? Or was a Grade Zero sealed artifact used? Audrey heaved a sigh of relief as she asked with brightened eyes, "Mr. World, do you know of the specifics?" "No, no one knows, other than the upper echelons of the Church of Storms." The
Ambition.
world stole a glance at the Hanged Man. The Hanged Man fell silent, feeling the burning ambition in his chest once more. "I want to become a member of the Church's upper echelons," he emphasized to himself. The hermit
Success.
Cattleya, who had joined the tarot gathering a second time, basically didn't understand what they were talking about. As a pirate admiral, she was no stranger to Banzi Harbor, but she didn't know what had happened there. She also had no idea why the Church of Storms would destroy the place, and why it would require a long period of time to rebuild it. It should be a very serious matter that deals with the higher-ups. The members of the Tarot Club seems to be aware of the reason. Although their sequences aren't high, they seem to know a lot and are involved in many matters, apart from the sun. This is the reason why Mr. Fool tacitly agreed to have them establish this gathering. Through the Tarot Club, they will indirectly influence various matters of different organizations. Cattleya once again reevaluated her understanding of the other members, and was increasingly impressed with them. She still maintained her silence and didn't inquire. This left Audrey, who was waiting to flaunt via answering in response to the hermit's puzzlement, disappointed.
Audrey
Even
loves
for Ma'am
glazing.
Hermit, it's unlikely that she'll be involved in matters regarding a King of Angels. No, she might not even know about the existence of a King of Angels, Audrey thought spontaneously. After talking about the outcome of Banzi Harbor and waiting for a moment, Emlyn White immediately cleared his throat and said, "Thanks to Mr. Hangman's help, I'm already a Baron. I have a question. As a Sanguine, do I need to use the acting method like you humans do in order to expedite the so-called digestion after advancing to a Baron, so as to better grasp the Beyonder characteristic?" His back was extremely sharp as his neck was slightly elevated while his chin was slightly tipped upwards. "Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Fool isn't able to answer this question of yours. But in theory, it's required. After all, you are using the inheritance of others." Klein leaned back in his chair and sat amidst the gray fog as he leisurely looked at the other members of the Tarot Club. Cattleya scanned her surroundings and said, "The Sanguine Baron corresponds to the Sequence 6 potions, Professor?" "Yes," Emlyn replied, unable to hide his smile. He wasn't stupid. From the previous transactions and interactions, he had determined the sequences of the other members apart from the world. He believed that he was one of the strongest members of the Tarot Club. Of course, this was excluding Mr. Fool and the recently recruited Ma'am Hermit. Mr.
so
Moon is
full of
already
himself.
at Sequence 6. Why does he seem more immature
The
than the
sun.
sun? Audrey pursed her lips. At that moment, Cattleya said, "It requires acting because this pathway only has the name Vampire at Sequence 7. As for you, you were born in that state. There's no need to act, but it's required for the other sequences. Ma'am Hermit, which pathway does that sequence 7 belong to? Audrey blinked her eyes as she curiously asked, before Emlyn White could say a word. Chapter 5, 195, Domain. Without waiting for the Hermit to answer, Audrey added, "If you believe this is an important piece of information and isn't something to be given for free, then I can provide you with some payment." No, there's no need to. Anyone familiar with the Faina Potter's Church of Earth Mother will have some understanding of this.
Oh.
Cattleya didn't doubt Miss Justice's sincerity when it came to the principle of equal exchange. She believed that Miss Justice was fully capable of satisfying her price in terms of wealth and resources, but she decided to provide the information for free. Firstly, it raised Miss Justice's impression on her and would build a foundation for any future transactions. Secondly, by providing the information, she could observe the reactions of the members and estimate their standing in their own organizations and factions. I'm very familiar with the Earth Mother's blessed Bishop Utrovsky, but I didn't know anything about that. Of course, I truly am a little scared of him. His height and build are just too intimidating. Every time I'm there, I only seek out Emlyn White. Sitting at the end of the long bronze table, Klein thought in a self-deprecating manner. Cattleya didn't pause as she continued. Vampire is from the Moon Pathway. The corresponding sequence 9 is Apothecary.
Truly, that
Sequence
makes
8 is Beast Tamer. Sequence 6 is Potions Professor. Sequence 5 is Scarlet Scholar. Sequence 4 is Shaman King.
Wait. No way. Sequence 9 is Apothecary? That's crazy. What? What? Whoa, that is so drastic. I wanted to be a apothecary, but it's connected with vampire and Moon Pathway. What? That's crazy. Okay. I have to think about that. Wow.
I'm not sure about the higher sequences. Ahem. Emlyn White coughed. Ma'am Hermit, I have to emphasize that it's sanguine, not vampire.
Yeah.
I won't object it if you call those humans who consume the characteristics of my kinsmen vampires. I would even be very agreeable to it. So vampire is from the apothecary pathway.
Primordial.
So is Shaman King. It's no wonder they revere the primordial moon and not the goddess.
Damn, that really
Could the
shifted
scarlet
my
Luna
thoughts about
Corona
apothecary
that Ma'am Sharon
pathway.
obtained be from a dead Scarlet Scholar or Sanguine Viscount? Apart from being able to recreate the effects of a full moon and neutralizing the corresponding effects, it can provide terrifying speed, unimaginable recovery speed, and rather powerful darkness-related spells. The negative effects can be neutralized by drinking the fresh blood of the living. Indeed, it does seem to be a result of a sanguine. Among the various jobs of this pathway, there are some that resemble the seer pathway. There's no connection between the sequences, while there are some that have an obvious progression. How strange. Klein joined the bits of breadcrumbs together, feeling somewhat enlightened and puzzled.
Me
Algae,
too.
Force, and company were either in thought, listening in relish, or pretending to be disinterested. Everyone had different reactions, but Cattleya was able to figure out that they didn't understand much about vampires prior to this. They are lower, mid-ranking members in their organizations or factions. They match the characteristics of being recently pulled into the Tarot Club, and at the stage of rapidly advancing, the world didn't react. Either he's very staid, or he long knew of the matter regarding vampires, or both. After repeated observations, I have to admit that the world is the Tarot Club member that needs to have the most attention paid to and be guarded against. Audrey listened with great interest as she thought over it carefully. As though she was attending a family education class, she raised her hand slightly. Ma'am Hermit, why are the sequences in the moon pathway seemingly unrelated?
Good question,
Hermit
Audrey.
Leia looked at Miss Justice and discovered that the dress and accessories she wore were completely different from the last gathering. There was no repeat, but it exuded her luxurious and noble bearing. As her mind went adrift, she seemed to see the portrait of the Queen back when she was young. Every piece of clothing she wore was completely different. The same set of clothing was never worn a second time.
Excuse me. Oops.
The formal event. After a moment of silence, Cattleya said, "A pathway sequence doesn't necessarily need to be related or superficially connected. The common trait is that this pathway corresponds to the God's domain. For example, the moon represents spirituality, plants, beauty, parts of life, parts of darkness, and parts of mystery. Therefore, this pathway has apothecary of the plant domain, vampire of the life domain, and beast tamer of the intersection of life and spirituality." Sanguine, Emlyn White emphasized and lifted his chin slightly. "This should be why us sanguine are very handsome and beautiful." "No, that's not the case. The vampires I've seen are all disgusting
Derek.
and ferocious," Derek retorted weakly in his heart. "It can be explained in such a manner. It's quite different from Captain's and Daly's explanations. Different pathways represent the domain possessed by a Sequence Zero. Or could it be that the two combined is the most accurate answer? I wonder what the domains the Sequence Zero of the Seer pathway represents. From the symbol behind my chair, it represents strangeness and change. Klein's expression didn't change as his mind whirled." Audrey easily understood Ma'am Hermit's explanation and couldn't help but guess the name of her pathway Sequence Zero.
Okay.
It's definitely dragon. There are many species of dragons. Many powers are not contained within this pathway. It's closer to the domain represented by the Mind Dragon. I wish Mr. Fool can quickly find the card of blasphemy of this corresponding pathway. That Grossel's travels originates from dragons. I wonder if it has anything to do with a Mind Dragon. At this moment, Emlyn asked as a form of validation. That is to say that to successfully become a Sanguine Viscount, I similarly have to act as a potions professor, even if I'm a favorite of the moon.
Favorite.
My dear Emlyn, I know you are trying to bring attention to the latter half of your sentence. Klein nearly reached out his right hand to pinch his chin. This was also one of the reasons why he had entrusted Miss Magician to check for abnormalities in William Street. He ultimately felt that Emlyn White, a vampire who didn't enjoy going out or socializing, was rather unreliable at present. Another reason was that he knew that he was being controlled by the Sanguine's upper echelons in secret. Getting him to head to William Street made it easy to expose the matter regarding the underground ruins. Yes, Cattleya nodded. The exchange continued, and as it came to a close, Audrey seemed to recall something. She turned her body and looked towards the end of the long bronze table.
Yes.
Mr. Fool, the second round of the Civil Servant Unified Examination officially ends today. What's left is the final interview. Her tone was brisk and with clear, delightful emotions. It was like an excellent student reporting her results to her parents. From her point of view, the Civil Servant Unified Examination was a suggestion raised by Mr. Fool in passing. She had pushed forward the idea via inconspicuous methods, the first time she had attempted to use her Beyonder powers to change reality. Therefore, she had always paid great attention to it, often reporting the situation to the suggester. The second round of the examinations are over. I wonder if Benson can pass and have the opportunity of entering the final interview. Klein leaned back and suddenly felt wistful. He nodded slightly and said with a smiling tone, "Not bad." Audrey, who had been praised by Mr. Fool, became happier. She felt that she was indirectly changing the fates of many people, allowing people who were stuck in the lower and middle classes to having a chance at entering the middle and upper classes. When Cattleya heard this exchange, she couldn't help but frown. She felt that this was very different from the style the Tarot Club had previously shown. Could it be that the reforms of the past half a year in the Lowen Kingdom were a result of the Tarot Club's turning of the wheels? As a young, noble lady, Miss Justice played an important role. If that's the case, I have to reevaluate my views. Although the members aren't of a high sequence and are low-ranking members of their organizations, they're still able to influence the situation of the world to a certain extent. Cattleya retracted her gaze and considered whether she wanted to use her different resource channels to figure out the backstory of Lowen Kingdom's reforms. After a few minutes of exchanges, the Fool Klein announced the end of the gathering. While Miss Justice and company got up to express their farewells, he severed the connection and leaned back into his seat. He silently watched the endless grayish-white fog around him for a very long while.
We're back here. Oh
Back
my gosh, stop.
in a coffee shop next to King's Avenue.
I need to get myself ready. I love his relatives. Benson and Melissa. Oh my goodness, I'm so happy.
Melissa was holding a porcelain teaspoon.
Oh my gosh, I love them
She
so
gently
much.
stirred the black tea, which had a lemon in it. From time to time, she would turn her head to look out into the faint fog. Her black veiled hat was sitting beside her.
Oh,
Placed in front of
stop.
her was a plate of the cheapest toast, but she hadn't taken a single bite. She originally imagined that she would anger the coffee shop's owner for sitting there all this while, preventing him from earning more. But she later discovered that there were many people waiting for the end of the test opposite the road like her. As seconds turned into
Oh my
minutes,
gosh,
the water
Benson.
condensing on the glass windows grew thicker. Melissa couldn't help but extend her hand to clean up a relatively clear spot. Finally, she saw a bunch of people surge out of the test venue. The glass-inlaid wooden door of the coffee shop was pushed open as about 8 men and women entered. Just as Benson took off his rather old top and before he could smooth his rather high hairline with his fingers,
hairline.
he discovered his sister standing as she asked nervously, "How did you do? Were the questions tough today?" It might have been considered difficult for others, but it was a piece of cake for me.
Piece of cake.
Mathematics is my forte. Benson looked around and saw everyone discussing it without noticing him. Hence, he chuckled. After the test ended, I saw quite a number of people with blank sheets. Do they think a low-ranking civil servant will have a mathematics secretary? If that's the case, what's the difference between hiring a curly-haired baboon and them? Melissa heaved a secret sigh of relief and looked to her side before turning her head back. Benson, if you're really confident, you should consider the matter regarding the interview. You need to buy a new decent set of clothes. Let's leave that to tomorrow. We should celebrate today. I've already decided on the restaurant. Benson smiled as he pointed outside. Melissa pursed her lips and looked at her elder brother in an extremely serious manner. I've already bought the meat and vegetables. Benson locked his gaze with his sister for a few seconds before moving it away in submission. All right, let's go home. Above the gray fog, Klein gradually found his train of thought and calmed
This is
his
so
emotions.
sad. I'm so sad.
He began considering how to separate the true creator's mental corruption of the all-black eye.
Right.
Chapter 5,
Right.
196. Clue. In the majestic palace with stone columns propping it up, Klein sat in a high-backed chair as he lightly tapped the corner of the long mottled table. He first eliminated the method of seeking a Sequence 4 unshadowed from the sun pathway. This was because he had almost zero contact with the Church of the Eternal Blazing Sun. It was very difficult for him to find help from anyone.
He needs another card of
Secondly,
blasphemy.
he suspected that an unshadowed was unlikely to be capable of cleansing the mental corruption in the all-black eye. After all, the hermit Catleya's suggestion was directed at remnant influences by an ordinary rampager, and not the true creator. Seeking the help of an angel or true God's power isn't realistic either. In theory, I can use the mysterious space above the gray fog to perform a divination on the eternal blazing sun, and use his help to shatter the all-black eye and evaporate the mental corruption. But the problem lies with the fact that an experienced him might be able to use this opportunity to invade this place and take over the gray fog. If that happens, it wouldn't be worth it. And when a power that exceeds my level an unknown number of times instantly comes into effect, there's no delay. It targets me, and I'll have no time to redirect it to the all-black eye. I will lack the ability to control the situation. Also, it's not like I can divine it as I wish. I need a medium. I previously used the mutated Sun Sacred Emblem, which had the eternal blazing sun's divine blood in it, as well as the ear that was corrupted by the true creator. Currently, the mediums I have are Mr. Door and the Hidden Sage. I can use the ravings that Miss Magician hears during the full moon, as well as Knowledge's pursuit of Admiral of Stars to make an attempt. But similarly, the counterattack isn't directed at the all-black eye, and I don't have the means to divert the attack. Mr. Azik has yet to recover. Snake of Fate, Will Septon, has yet to be born. From the looks of it, I can't find an angel to help me either. Sigh, I still know too few high-ranking figures. Right, there's also something akin to an angel, the evil spirit in the ruins under Bakland that's suspected to be King of Angels Medici. But that fellow is scheming with unknown plots and malicious intent. Unless there's no other method, I will...
Medici.
I'll consider it. Yes, taking the risk isn't worth it at all. If that's the case, I might as well give up on the all-black eye and search for the main ingredients of a Nimblewright master. It's only the dust of ancient wraiths and the core crystal of a six-winged gargoyle. It's even possible that the former can be found in the underworld. In that case, performing a new search is a viable choice, while finding a mystical item that's similar to the Blood Vessel Thief is another choice. With the gray fog shielding me, I can use its theft abilities to its full extent. I'll definitely be able to separate the true creator's mental corruption from the all-black eye, and I wouldn't be afraid that it would return. The easiest method is to throw the corrupted mystical item far away once the theft is completed. Then I'll bring the pure all-black eye back to the real world, causing the physical separation of the two items. Well, how am I to find a similar mystical item? Mr. Hanged Man didn't say anything after seeing the methods, which implies that he doesn't know either. However, I can ask at the next tarot gathering. Ma'am Hermit, Miss Magician, Miss Justice, Little Sun, and Emlyn White all have their corresponding information and resource channels. I can try searching for it myself this week. I'll start with Vice Admiral Iceberg. Her third mate, Flowery Bowtie Jodison, has beyonder powers that can steal. Perhaps he might know where there might be similar mystical items. Klein's thought process gradually cleared up as he formulated an initial plan. He first performed a divination before rapidly returning to the real world. He got out of the decadent state of laying slump in the reclining chair, drinking beverages and reading newspapers as he quickly set up a ritual. It was still 3 candles, But the difference was the symbol he drew. It was the sacred emblem of the god of knowledge and wisdom, an omniscient eye on an open book. Ritual's silver dagger also switched to a brass knife. In mysticism, the blue star corresponded to the god of knowledge and wisdom, and the metal that belonged to the blue star's domain was mercury and brass. Klein had long considered the problem of contacting Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina Edwards. Therefore, he prepared a set of soulfall ritual materials. After a series of processes, he burned the corresponding herb powder, and he dripped the extract and essence from lavender and mint. Amidst the faint, clear, and mysterious fragrance, Klein took a step back and used ancient Hermes to recite an incantation. I pray for the power of knowledge. I pray for the power of rationality. I pray for the God of wisdom's loving grace. I pray that you allow me to communicate with the spirit of Edwina Edwards, the teacher who pursues knowledge, the researcher of spirit world creatures, Vice Admiral Iceberg of the Seas, who hails from Lenberg. Klein's voice reverberated as the altar instantly turned gloomy and cold. Be it the brass knife or the metallic bottles, all of them floated up. It succeeded. The Golden Dream is still within 500 nautical miles. Klein first felt a sense of delight before he saw the flames of the three candles lengthen. They were tainted with a pale white with a hint of dark green. He knew that the Soulfall ritual was essentially to free his body and allow the target's astral projection to possess him to establish an effective communication channel. He would be lacking in the necessary protection, making it easy to be attacked by the target of the Soulfall ritual. Therefore, he had divined ahead of time to determine the danger from this matter. Besides, after meeting and conversing with her, he believed that Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina wasn't a person with malicious intent. He temporarily found her trustworthy. At this moment, the wind within the wall of spirituality produced mournful sounds. Klein only felt an ice-cold power descend upon him from the void in an attempt to enter his body. Then he was surprised to discover that it wasn't like he expected. He had the necessary strength to resist and control himself instead of being possessed by her. What's happening? Just as he had the thought, he began to see a faint, formless gray fog around him. This was a trait he possessed after advancing to Faceless. The power of the gray fog was able to slightly leak into the reality. Amidst his racing mind, Klein didn't hesitate to wave his arm. He pointed to a coat hanging on a coat rack, throwing the ice-cold power onto it. The black tweed coat on the coat rack strangely floated up as the arms raised up, looking somewhat clumsy. It was as though an invisible person was wearing his coat. The black coat floated 2 meters forward before coming to a pause. The 2 sleeves raised up and formed an... What does that mean? Klein was taken aback before he realized what Vice Admiral Iceberg meant. Without a mouth, I can't speak. Without hands, I can't write. This is awkward. Klein thought for a moment and directly said, I need a mystical item.
Hold up.
That can steal the beyonder powers of others. Ma'am, might I know if you have one?
Oh. Noise. Clumsy. An X.
If you don't, can you ask your third mate for me? Flowery bow tie
Give,
Jotson. The corresponding answer
give them
can be
gloves.
written in a letter. Summon my messenger to send it over. The black coat's sleeves spread out and motioned with a lowering gesture. Following that, it lost its soul and fell to the ground, no longer appearing as straight as before. That means yes? Klein sighed silently and quickly ended the ritual. He hung up the black coat and used a brush and handkerchief to clean it. Then he wrote a letter and asked Mr. Azik a similar question. He summoned the messenger by blowing the copper whistle.
Like the blood vessel
After the
thief.
letter was taken away, Klein attempted the third method with great drive. He took out the paper crane from his wallet and carefully spread it out. He wrote with a pencil on it. Might I ask where I can get a mystical item that can steal the beyonder powers of others? Putting down the pencil, Klein
He has
restored
already
the paper
one
crane
that
according to
steals.
its lines.
But I
He was
guess he wants
quite
it like
pleased with his
temporarily.
improvement at handicraft.
And not killing them.
In the evening, after Klein browsed through the prayers of his believers, he returned to the real world and went to the washroom to enjoy a rather comfortable hot bath.
Bath.
This allowed him to quickly fall asleep after entering his bed. This continued until he suddenly sensed an external force invading his dream. It was the same desolate plains with the towering pitch-black steeple. With familiarity, Klein passed through the doors and walls until he entered deep inside the tower. There was still a deck of tarot cards scattered here. They surrounded a central protrusion as though they were making a declaration. However, as a seer, Klein could only interpret it as chaotic and contradictory. Charles, on the protruded area, the text had already changed.
Aww.
The silver words formed 3 sentences. The first line wrote, "I'm only a child that has yet to be born."
I'm a baby.
Klein's expression froze as though he was hearing an infant cry. "Please, I beg you, don't make things difficult for me.
Aww.
Such communication is very tiring." The second line was equally succinct. "The clue lies in you." The third line was, "Don't ask me what the clue is because I have no
I
idea
love
either."
that.
That is to say that Snake of Fate, Will Osseptin, can foresee a clue on me, but he is unable to foresee what it is
Charlatan.
exactly. That feels like a charlatan's divination. No, I can't say so. I can't include myself in such criticism. Klein remembered the information and exited the dream before returning back to sleep until daybreak. After breakfast, he began recalling the items and matters he had experienced before to seek out the so-called clue. At this moment, his spiritual perception was triggered as he quickly activated his spirit vision. The skeleton messenger remained huge, but unlike the last time, its head didn't pass through the ceiling. This was because it had spewed up from the floor, so half its head was in the level below. In such a situation, it looked at Klein at his eye level and placed the return letter on his palm. Seeing the messenger crumble like a falling waterfall, Klein was taken back. He muttered, feeling both angry and amused. "So you do know some manners. You're getting more considerate after all. You've changed greatly after knowing that you wouldn't be transferred to me."
Noise.
Klein rapidly retracted his gaze and opened the letter to read Mr. Azek's reply. "Stealing the beyonder powers of others is from the Marauder pathway.
Marauder.
In the 4th epoch, it belonged to the Amon family, the Zoroast
wait,
family,
for real?
and the Jacob family.
Amon?
They seldom appeared after the War of the 4 Emperors.
That-
Rumor has it that some of their members have formed an alliance and call themselves Hermits of Fate.
Hermits
I
of
can't
Fate.
remember any further.
We have a new
You
one.
can try
Darn it.
attacking from the angle of the descendants of these 3 families. Amon. So a blasphemer refers to this pathway. The Jacob family was one of the 5 angel families of the Tudor dynasty. It was equal to Abraham, Ammon, Antigonus, and Tamara.
Damn.
As for the
All that.
Zoroast family, it's from the Solomon Empire. Hermits of Fate. Fate, Hermit. The clue lies in me. Klein suddenly sat up and recalled an item. It was the mysterious badge from Lanavis. The symbols on it were none other than that of
Yeah.
fate and
That club. Ugh. Leonard was part of it too. I mean, I don't know if he was investigating, but he participated on it. Oh my goodness, let's go crazy. Swindler.
Chapter 5, 197. Klein's Plan. Lanavis is likely a Sequence 8 swindler. This happens to be from the Marauder pathway. It's not incomprehensible or unacceptable that he would have the admission ticket to the corresponding gathering. On the contrary, it's very logical. Purchasing a mystical item which can steal the Beyonder powers of others at a gathering with the Hermits of Fate is definitely much easier than other circles. From the looks of it, this is the so-called clue Will Ossepton mentioned. Klein sat by the edge of the bed and suddenly brightened up. He hurriedly set up a ritual to summon himself and went above the gray fog to bring back the eyeball-sized badge to the real world. On the front of the badge was a symbol that depicted fate and concealment, and behind it was a ring of tiny and compact words in ancient Hermes. You can join if you have this item. Klein was just about to inject his spirituality to activate the badge and send out the information to synchronize it with the latest gathering time and location when he suddenly turned hesitant. How careless am I? I actually forgot to divine if doing so will be dangerous. If that gathering has Lanavis's demigod senior and he uses it to lock onto me, that will be troublesome. It's just like how Vice Admiral Ailment Tracy was able to quickly find a demoness of Unaging to help her. I must take precautions. A person should be rash when the time calls for it, and be a coward when necessary. Klein smacked his forehead and cautiously returned to the mysterious space above the gray fog where he used spirit dowsing to perform a divination. After receiving a revelation that there wasn't any danger, he breathed a sigh of relief and left the gray fog. He then sat in the reclining chair in his inn room. With the injection of his spirituality, the badge emitted a blurry luster and quickly condensed into an inconspicuous light beam, shooting out into the air. Before long, the same light beam returned and dispersed, transforming into a palm-sized piece of illusory goatskin parchment. On it was written the words in ancient Feysac, the 6th of June, 1350, 9 p.m. at the Tussock River's estuary. That's another 4 more months. With this much time, it wouldn't be a problem for me to find the Nimblewright Master's main ingredient all over again. The only obstacle is a lack of money, but that's not too difficult. I now have a wealth of 6,945 pounds. I should have more than enough after selling another 1 or 2 Beyonder characteristics. Besides, there are so many moving bounties at sea. No, I can't be so conceited. I have to eliminate the 4 kings and the 7 admirals. What kind of clue is this? Klein leaned forward, arched his back, and began thinking hard. As he thought about the gathering of the Hermits of Fate, he suddenly thought of someone. Leonard Mitchell. My dear poet had participated in the Hermits of Fate gathering in Babur Valley. Regardless of his goal, whether it's for official work or private matters, there's a possibility of him obtaining a mystical item that can steal the Beyonder powers of others. I can borrow it from him or buy it through him. This is the real clue. Klein felt energized as he quickly came up with a rough plan. First step, place the radio transceiver above the gray fog to accumulate its aura. Second step, use the radio transceiver to contact the Rhodes a few days later. Third step, ask it where I can with relative ease. Obtain mystical items that can steal the Beyonder powers of others. If the answer is very clear, the 4th step will follow what the information says, easily completing my goal. If the answer is vague or fraught with danger, the 4th step can be to ask my dear poet's present location. The 5th step is to get Emlyn.
Why does Klein keep saying that? It's so cute. How many times? How many times are you gonna say that, Klein? How many times? We need a word count. Every time you say that. You silly Billy. Dear poet.
Like to take this badge to find my dear poet, to see if he has any
Oh my
corresponding
gosh.
items and if it's possible to do a transaction. I won't appear in person, for I might end up being recognized. That will similarly make it very troublesome. As for Emlyn, he's presently considered someone from the Church of Earth Mother. No, considered a ghost of the Church of Earth Mother. To get him to initiate first contact,
Oh my god, I
even
need
if
to
he were
highlight that
reported by
again. Yep. Word count. We love it.
dear poet, or ends up
Oh my
captured on the
gosh,
spot,
he did it
he
again.
wouldn't be framed.
You said it again. Rah. This is crazy. This is crazy. They're baiting me.
Put up for torture. With the plan on what to do and how to proceed, Klein immediately felt refreshed. In his good mood, he decided to head out to eat a Bayam
Yum.
delicacy, roasted fish.
Yum, 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 yum.
Above the blue sea, the Golden Dream, which was sparkling thanks to the setting sun's golden rays, was silently cruising forward. Receiving his captain's permission, Danitz apprehensively walked into her room with his head up as people stared at him with envy. Bookshelves filled the room, and on top of them were different books. Vice Admiral Iceberg. Edwina stood in front of a desk as she held a black fountain pen in her hand. She quickly wrote the following. I do not have similar items. Same for Jodison. He says he will help you look out for it, but that will require you to be sufficiently lucky. Edwina raised her head and turned her clear, aqueous blue eyes to look at Danitz. You hold the ritual to summon Gehrman Sparrow's messenger.
German.
At that moment, Danitz was wondering if he would receive any special treatment from his captain, but when he heard that, he pointed at himself in astonishment. Me? Yes. Edwina folded the letter, straightened her body, and nodded. This can help you familiarize yourself with similar rituals. In the future, I'll be testing you on this. All right. Danitz hid his disappointment as he tried his best to recall the procedure as he slowly set up the ritual that only needed one candle. Finally, under Edwina's watch, he took out a shiny Lowen gold coin and placed it on the altar. After taking the letter, Danitz ran through the subsequent ritual in his mind twice before he dared to do it. He took a step back and said in ancient Hermes, Hi, I summon in my name, the spirit that wanders about the unfounded, the friendly creature that can be subordinated, the messenger that belongs to Gehrman Sparrow. Whoosh! The wind howled in the wall of spirituality, sending
Oh my
Danitz's
goodness.
yellow hair flailing upwards. The flame rapidly burgeoned to the size of a human's head. It was as pale as the letter in Danitz's hand. Soon, Danitz saw long blonde hair, bloodshot eyes, and a gorgeous head appear. Hiss. Gehrman Sparrow's messenger is very unique. How can a spirit world creature look like a human? And it's so beautiful at that. She's just slightly inferior to Captain, Danitz suddenly choked because he discovered that the head didn't have a neck underneath. Furthermore, it was held up by a pigtail with a hand. He looked in a daze as one head after another appeared. He saw the headless figure dressed in a complicated dress appear before him.
Dress.
She's indeed a creature from the spirit world. He felt ashamed for having those thoughts. Taking a deep breath, Denitz hurriedly handed over the letter and saw one of the beautiful heads open its mouth to bite at it with pearly white teeth. At this moment, Raynette Tinnicare's other head bit on the
Raynette.
gold coin on the altar. However, she didn't immediately leave. The four bloodshot eyes on other two heads darted towards Edwina Edwards, who was outside the wall of spirituality.
Sized her up.
She sized her up a few times. Edwina felt herself being observed, and it made it impossible to contain the horror that ensued. Rhaenette Tinniker retracted her gaze as her body turned illusory, fusing into the white candlelight. The flame lit up again as the colors spread outwards. Everything had restored to normal. Just as Danitz removed the wall of spirituality, he heard his captain say in a deep voice, "That's not an ordinary creature from the spirit world." Not an ordinary creature from the spirit world? Danitz was stunned. He knew that his captain's profession was a researcher of spirit world creatures. If she said it wasn't ordinary, it definitely wasn't one. It was far more extraordinary than ordinary. Gehrman Sparrow really is a man with many secrets, Danitz reflected. Bakland, Sherwood Burrow. Force mustered every fiber in her body before she triumphed
She's
over
a
the
couch
laziness brought
potato.
from the
She just like
fireplace.
me for
She
real.
switched to a thick dark blue cotton dress, wrapped a light gray scarf around her, and wore a warm lady's hat. In the not-too-cold temperatures, aside from the cold that seeped into her bones thanks to the prevailing fog, she took a carriage to William Street. She took in the cold air and told herself that this was a common excursion for an author to gather material outside. There was no need for her to be nervous or appear abnormal. Taking a few steps forward, Force entered a coffee shop and sat by the window. As she drank the thick, warm liquid, she observed the pedestrians and the houses across the road. There's nothing abnormal. There's no fighting or theft at all. This is a place where the rich live, so the security is much better than East Borough. Yeah, I can still see someone from Faceac. He's really tall and muscular, like a bear. He also has companions. Haha, are those people from Intais? They really wear exaggerated clothes. It's like they're acting in a play. Bakland is indeed the capital of capitals. I can meet many foreigners here. Force gradually forgot her goal and opened up a notebook to record down material for her novel. After she finished her coffee, she circled the street and left after finding nothing peculiar. She planned to come again on Thursday. After taking Edwina's reply letter from Rhaenette Tinniker's hands, Klein watched as the messenger vanished, confirming that she hadn't asked for an additional gold coin. From the looks of it, using a gold coin as a ritual material works. He smiled, feeling pleased with himself as he opened the letter. With a fruitless answer, he planned on going out to walk the streets to find a chance to engage in true acting so as to conclude the principles. At this moment, he heard knocking at the door. It was Captain Elend. Klein silently opened the door and said, "I was just about to look for you." Elend chuckled and said, "There's no need. As long as you register a place with your identity, I'll be able to know where you're staying. The Governor General's office and the military have quite good control on the inns after all." Klein nodded without a word. Elend turned his body halfway and pointed at the corridor. "I'll bring you to see someone." The White Agate is about to return to Pritz Harbor. If you need help or have any information to provide, you can find him. We're often generous when it comes to payment. This was what Klein had previously mentioned to him before. All right. Klein reached out to the coat rack. After wearing his coat, Elend led him straight to the Amiris Leaf Bar and to a corner inside. In the basement of the Amiris Leaf Bar, Wormtongue, Mythor King, looked at Strongman Ozil opposite him and asked, "Have you gathered the recent intel about Blazing Danitz?" "Yes," Ozil said with a smile. "Last week, Blue Eyes Meath saw Blazing Danitz with an unknown adventurer. Chapter 5, 198, Windfall, in a corner of the Amiris Leaf Bar."
Hold up a second. Oh, right. I guess they're finding stuff about them. Oh my gosh, we're 2 chapters to 600. Go crazy. Woo. Oh my gosh, wait. The fact that they're going to Amorous Leaf Bar and they're at the basement. Oh no. Conflict will ensue.
The man wearing a coffee-colored jacket patted him on the shoulder and laughed. "Why aren't you drinking Lanti Proof?" The man was in his 30s, having a rather common face. It was obvious that he had Loan blood running through his veins. He had brown hair and eyes with a somewhat high nose bridge. His tipsy appearance instantly vanished as his eyes turned sharp. He swept a glance at Elend and Klein before his eyes turned turbid again. He said, sounding completely intoxicated, "I've already drunk. I'm drinking Zarhar to lessen the effects of the alcohol." Zarhar was a locally produced malt beer. It was cheap and tasted quite good. Elend chuckled and pointed at Klein. "German Sparrow." Then he introduced the man to Klein. "Oz Kent, you can call him Kent. Chat amongst yourselves. I'll have to return to make preparations. I'll be setting off early tomorrow morning." He waved his hand and
Chat.
left without any hesitation. Klein pulled over a nearby chair and sat down. He didn't get any alcohol as he expressionlessly looked at Oz Kent. The staring made Kent
Wow.
feel extremely uncomfortable as he downed a mouthful of Zarhar and said, "Find me if there's anything in the future. You'll be paid as long as you provide any intel of value, or if you help us do certain things." He wasn't worried that the drunkards around them would hear their conversation, as many gangs and pirate crews would say the same thing. The words used to rope in informants were usually the same.
Boy.
All right. Klein had the strong urge to ask if he could be reimbursed for dressing up as Helene to assassinate Vice
Wow.
Admiral Ailment, despite it being paid by Demitz. However, it was just a thought. Oz Kent chuckled while appearing completely drunk. "I heard Elend mention some things about you, but I have to remind you that one shouldn't be too crazy out at sea. You need to take note and try your best not to provoke the pirates. What I mean is to not fight them head on. Privately providing us information would be fine. We will keep it a secret for you." This time he had clearly suppressed his voice. Seeing no response from German Sparrow, he added,
There's no family
"Pirates
there,
wouldn't
boy.
bother with any chivalrous code, nor will they abide by the kingdom's laws and rules. Burp,
But
if you have a family at different port cities or some island colony, they'd definitely be capable of attacking your family." Family. Klein fell silent for a second before calmly saying, "I do not have a family."
haha.
Oz Kent was nearly at a loss for words. All he could do was say, "They will also attack your friends." Then he heard German Sparrow reply in an unperturbed tone,
Let's
"I do
go,
not have
German."
friends." Oz Kent instantly choked up. He subconsciously drank a mouthful of Zarhar beer to calm himself. After coughing twice, he said in a deep voice, "They will also ambush you. They will also bribe people to learn about your schedule and intercept your ship. At sea, a single person's strength is often so inconsequential." Klein said rather calmly, "I wouldn't reject them from giving me money." "That's basic courtesy." Giving money? Oz Kent was clearly taken aback as he found German Sparrow's words incomprehensible. A few seconds later, he realized that the man was treating pirates as mobile bounties. He drank mouthful after mouthful of beer, momentarily at a loss for words. In the basement of the Amiris Leaf Bar, unknown adventure.
Horrible. courtesy. Yum.
Wormtongue Mythor King's mind
Yeah, he's
stirred as
right
he
up
sat
there,
straight
you
up.
know.
Strong man, Ozil nodded. According to Blue Eyes Meath, that adventurer is new. He likely hasn't been to the archipelago for long, but Meath felt that he was considerably dangerous. Considerably dangerous? Could he be the person who killed Steel Mavetti and company with Blazing Danitz? Could it be the person who disguised himself as Helene to attack Captain?
Kind of.
Mythor immediately made certain connections as he asked with a deep voice, "Do you have his photograph or a portrait?" Ozil beckoned to a subordinate and received a piece of white paper. "We used a ritual to get Blue Eyes Meath to draw the unknown adventurer's appearance. As you know, it's different having a firm footing in Biam's underground world than being a successful pirate. I need supporting members. Sigh, to hire them, I spent quite a bit of money." Mythor could read between the lines as he chuckled. "As long as you get to the bottom of this matter, Captain wouldn't be stingy with her reward."
Sure.
He took the portrait, spread it out, and discovered a cold-looking man with black hair
Very
and brown
cold.
eyes. His face was slightly thin, and he had a cut face. He wore a black double-breasted frock coat and a half-top hat. Never seen him before. It's impossible to confirm if he's the person who disguised himself as Helene. Mythor raised his head and said, "Find out his identity and whereabouts." "I've already instructed my men to do it," Strongman Ozil said with a deep laugh. The two fell silent at the same time as they drank their
There,
Southville
he's
red
literally
wine.
up there. Oh my
A
gosh.
few minutes later, a bar bouncer entered and broke the silence. He glanced at
Yeah.
Wormtongue Mythor, leaned in towards his boss's ear, and whispered. Ozil's expression instantly turned odd as an unconcealed smile appeared. He put down the wine glass and said after pausing, "That unknown adventurer has been found." "Where is he?" Mythor asked. Ozil pointed upstairs. "At this very bar." Mythor looked up at the ceiling and remained silent for a few seconds. "I'll go up to verify." He believed that having had some interaction with the disguised Helene, he had a general understanding of the man's abilities. He believed that no matter how good the man was at disguising himself, he would definitely feel a sense of familiarity. Therefore, he decided to confirm it himself. According to his usual habits, he wouldn't have taken such initiative and would instead perform an investigation from the outskirts. Only with enough confidence would he get himself involved. But this time he wasn't too convinced of Ozil's subordinate. If it was really the person who disguised himself as Helene,
Yeah.
he would immediately change his appearance and identity and vanish once he noticed something was amiss. Besides, Mythor knew that he was presently being punished by his captain. He had to quickly perform a deed of merit in order to return to the Black Death. Sigh, regardless if I was lacking in ability or not being careful enough, the outcome cannot be changed. I was fooled by that disguise and brought her onto the Black Death, nearly killing Captain. If it were Kilingos, he wouldn't have spared me. He has always been very greedy. He had long thirsted for my Beyonder powers. Captain didn't believe that I had been in cahoots with the assassin simply because Kilangos could also change his appearance with creeping hunger. She didn't summon people to surround and kill me. She only sent me to Bayam to investigate this matter. She's already being forgiving enough. Compared to Kilangos, she is truly a captain worthy of being loyal to. I have to quickly provide some meritorious service and find an excuse to contact her so as to live up to her treatment towards me. As Mythor King got up and walked out, he couldn't help but have these thoughts churn through his mind. Although he was a pirate who had killed countless and had plundered countless ships, he had a soft spot in his heart. Besides, he didn't notice that he was being constantly mesmerized by Vice Admiral Ailment Tracy via prolonged interactions with her. His fondness for her had seeped deep into his bones. Even if Ailment Maiden didn't have helpers, he wouldn't have resisted, kneeling down and kissing her toes at her behest. Of course, this didn't affect his fantasies of doing countless deeds with Tracy. If he had the chance, he believed he would take the initiative to do so, even if he didn't get her permission. As a pirate, he had done such things plenty of times. When he went upstairs, Mythor King followed the guidance of Ozil's subordinates and circled halfway around the bar's walls. From afar, he saw the unknown adventurer sitting in the corner. Identical to the portrait, but I don't feel any familiarity. Is it because his disguise is sufficiently good, or is he someone else, for example, Vice Admiral Iceberg Edwina? She can mimic the Beyonder powers of those she had seen before. It's not impossible for her to change appearance like Yelangos. Mythor's gaze paused for 2 seconds before he cautiously retracted it. But at this moment, Klein's spiritual intuition as a seer told him that someone was observing him. Without concealing anything, Klein immediately turned to look back. He saw a man with short eyebrows, deep eye sockets, and bronze eyes. Wormtongue Mythor King, third mate of Vice Admiral Ailment's flagship, Black Death. Klein instantly recognized the person observing him. Instantly, 2 thoughts flashed in his mind. One of them was 5,400-pound bounty. The other was, why is he observing me? He managed to find me by investigating Danitz. The military contact person, Oz Kent, discovered Gehrman Sparrow's abnormality as he traced his gaze. However, due to his angle, he was blocked by a few drunkards. At this point in time, Klein already instinctively came up with a solution. It was to pretend that he didn't recognize Mythor King, retract his gaze, and get a cup of alcohol to drink. He could then secretly observe where he went, and then use his powers as a faceless to infiltrate where Mythor hid himself before silently hunting him. As this thought flashed past his mind, Klein suddenly discovered a problem. That's me being myself. But I'm now Gehrman Sparrow, a seemingly calm but crazy adventurer. With this thought, he suddenly turned around, drew his revolver, and aimed at Wormtongue Mythor King inside the rowdy bar. Bang!
What the heck?
A gunshot rang through the bar as many customers reflexively crouched down while hugging their heads. All of them were extremely experienced. Many drunkards slumped to the ground, with more than 10 people throwing themselves to the side or rolling on the ground to dodge. These series of actions were well practiced, and Mythor King was one of them. However, Klein didn't really pull the trigger, as he was afraid of injuring the innocent bystanders by mistake. There were many customers in between him and Mythor. The gunshot stemmed from his powers of illusion creation.
Oh, illusion.
At that moment, everything before him opened up as people crouched down. Hence, having aimed at Mythor, who had thrown himself sideways to the ground, he pulled the trigger this time.
Damn.
Bang.
Go crazy.
Chapter 5, 199, Dragon Might. Bang. The brass bullet traversed past half the bar, flying straight for Wormtongue Mythor King's body. But just as it was about to hit him, Mythor's brown eyes suddenly turned dark. The bullet made a turn, and its trajectory was thrown upwards slightly as it accurately hit a glass cup filled with golden beer. Amidst a loud noise, the glass instantly shattered, splashing beer everywhere. At the same time, Mythor grabbed a cup from a customer, extended his arm, and threw it at Klein.
Damn.
What's the point of that? Klein only dodged slightly to allow the glass cup to miss him, shattering onto the wall. At this moment, Wormtongue Mythor immediately lunged forward and rolled, heading for the entrance to the basement. He attempted entry in order to get help or escape via a secret path. He had initially confirmed that the unknown and crazy adventurer was the assassin, who had disguised as Helene and boarded the Black Death, targeting Vice Admiral Ailment Tracy. Furthermore, his series of actions, which had nearly succeeded, told him that in a one-on-one situation, he wasn't a match for him. This was a powerhouse at the Pirate Admiral level. Tap, tap, tap. Klein quickly chased after Wormtongue Mythor. He was fast and agile. Despite being inside the chaotic bar, he didn't step onto anyone.
Ooh.
Seeing that the bouncers in the basement were coming with revolvers in hand, and how Mythor King was about to enter the basement with bouncers in the bar approaching, Klein didn't hesitate. He suddenly clenched his left hand. The black glove was instantly covered with dense dark golden scales. His dark brown irises turned pale and became vertical. Right on the heels of that, an invisible wave surged outwards with him as its epicenter. In the areas where the wave passed, the customers who were holding their heads down turned limp or trembled. The military contact, Oz Kent, also clearly lost his sense of reason, as though he had encountered the most terrifying thing in the world. All he wanted to do was to escape. The bouncers who had approached were no different. Extreme horror gripped their hearts as they ran around aimlessly, making the situation turn even more chaotic. Clang, clang, clang. The bouncers in the basement threw away their weapons, either running to a corner and shrinking into a ball, or they were trembling on the spot, their crotches rapidly turning moist. Wormtongue. Mythor felt as though he was struck by lightning. In his fear, he began running in circles at the entrance.
Frenzy.
This was a psychiatrist's awe, also known as Dragon's Might or Mass Chaos. This was Klein's only crowd control beyond a power. At this moment, Klein's rapidly approaching figure didn't stop. In a few steps, he had arrived beside Mythor. In that instant, a scene suddenly surfaced in his mind. Mythor, who looked to be lost in extreme horror, suddenly raised his head and swung his right fist over, aiming straight for Klein's head. Without any thought, Klein fully trusted his clown's intuition for danger. He immediately bent down and turned his body sideways. Almost at the same time, Wormtongue Mythor suddenly raised his head. His brown eyes were dark and clear, without any sense of muddle-headedness. At some moment in time, he had shaken off the effects of Dragon's Might.
Yeah.
This was something that exceeded Klein's
Oh my
expectations.
god. Stop.
Bang! Mythor's muscles bulged
looks so
as he bent his
majestic.
back and threw a punch
Oh my.
that resembled a cannonball. However, he didn't hit his expected target, and instead hit the wall of the entrance. Creak! The spot where his fist connected threw up pulverized bricks. Quickly, a huge hole that seemed to be covered in a spider web appeared. The entire bar seemed to shake. The power of the punch was far stronger than a revolver's bullet. But at this moment, Klein had already flashed behind him. His body straightened up again as his glove seemed to be covered in a layer of gold. His brown eyes lit up with two flashes of lightning as they shot out like bullets. Interrogator's psychic piercing. Ah! Mythor King let out a shrill cry, but he didn't fall to the ground. He rolled as he grimaced in pain, holding his arms to protect his head. He soon magically recovered from the pain of psychic piercing, but he felt ice-cold metal at his forehead. He saw the cold and thin adventurer pull the trigger. At such a close distance, even though psychic piercing's effects could only be maintained for a second, it was enough for Klein to raise his right arm and place the revolver's barrel at Wormtongue Mythor King's head.
Look at him go.
Mythor King's pleas shrank back from his half-agape mouth and into his throat as a picture seemingly formed of blood and white material appeared on the wall behind him. It was melancholic, fresh, and messy. The luster in his eyes vanished as Mythor collapsed backward, leaning against the wall before sliding to the ground. At noon on the 1st of February, 1350, Wormtongue Mythor was hunted. Klein glanced around at the chaotic bar and closed the door to the basement. He chained the door with the existing chains and forcibly made a knot. He bent down and dragged Mythor King down a few steps, but he didn't directly enter.
More money.
As he was wary of enemies who might suddenly charge out from inside, he opened up his palm and aimed it at Wormtongue Mythor's corpse from above. He had no qualms about grazing the Black Death's third mate. He believed that he was definitely someone with heinous crimes to his name. Firstly, he was once a subordinate of Vice Admiral Hurricane Kilangos, and the deceased pirate admiral had once massacred an entire ship. He was a rather cold-blooded person. It was simply obvious from what the Red Glove Nightmare inside Creeping Hunger had encountered. Secondly, Mythor was working for Vice Admiral Ailment, which was equivalent to working for the Demoness sect. It was unknown how many cases of human trafficking he had been involved in. Creeping Hunger restored its thin, human skin appearance as his palm cracked open, producing two bloodshot eyes. In an instant, a biting cold wind stirred in the entrance's passageway to the basement. It constantly spun around Wormtongue Mythor's corpse, slowly outlining a blurry figure with short eyebrows and deep eye sockets. Black but undulled points of light rapidly surged out of the corpse, combining with Mythor's spirit body. All of them were injected into Creeping Hunger, where an empty finger was waiting for it, forming a connection with the surroundings to a certain degree. Creeping Hunger first went from a black color with a sinister and noble vibe, before returning to its original state, as it suffused its desire for flesh and blood. Klein silently diverted his senses to it for a few seconds and was pleasantly surprised that the powers he received were rather useful. Although there were only two, they were much better than the previous three he had obtained from the zombie sequence. At this point he learned that the mid-sequence beyonder was a Sequence 6 Baron of Corruption from the Lawyer Pathway. One of them came from a Baron of Corruption, and the other came from the Sequence 7 Briber. The former was distortion. By distorting the target's words, actions, and intent, he could formulate a certain order that provided himself with an advantage, so as to achieve the goal of restraining and influencing his opponent. The latter was bribe, which was one of the various powers of a briber. More accurately, it would be bribe, weaken. The premise behind using this power was to give the target a certain item, then for a certain amount of time, greatly weaken the target's attacks, defense, and control over him. Give the target a certain item? His act of throwing a cup of alcohol was considered a bribe.
Okay, wow.
As expected of the Black Emperor pathway.
Bribe.
It finds loopholes in order while it appears domineering. It's no wonder my dragon's might and psychic piercing powers weren't as effective as I imagined them to be on Mythor. Even my bullet's strength was reduced. I thought that shot would have blown his entire head up. Klein came to a realization. At the same time, he understood why he had involuntarily flown towards the Black Emperor where King of the Five Seas, Nast, was. It was because Nast had distorted his intent to proceed forward, making it impossible for him to stop. Not bad at all. Klein lowered his head to steal a glance at Wormtongue Mythor's corpse before he went down to the basement. He was trying to find some food for Creeping Hunger. It was unknown whether it had to do with him throwing Creeping Hunger above the gray fog repeatedly, but Creeping Hunger wasn't as crazy anymore. It seemed to be able to bear with its hunger. Therefore, Klein wasn't in a hurry. He slowly proceeded forward so as to be careful of encountering any accidents.
Hold up.
What's got you such in a sour mood this
Hello,
morning?
brother. I'm trying to read and so don't worry.
What's got you such in a sour mood today?
If you don't bother me, that would be
I
nice.
was just dancing. And then you're like,
No, you were slowly approaching me. That wasn't just dancing, no.
He saw strongman Ozil leading his subordinates over. There were Beyonders and gunmen, and their numbers were sizable. Klein's expression remained stoic as his black glove was covered in dark, golden scales once again. His irises turned light in color as they suddenly turned
Noise.
vertical. Invisible waves instantly surged forward.
It's a massacre.
Psychiatrists, dragons, light.
A massacre. Okay, I think this is a good stopping point.